Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Meta Transitions. Today, we have with us Marlon Simpson. Marlon hails from the beautiful island of Jamaica, where I'm from as well. And Marlon is a licensed associate clinical psychologist, and he is going to share his story with us. Welcome, Marlon, to our show.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yes. All right. So let's jump right into it. What is your transition story?
All right. So I was actually a minister of religion for about 8 years before venturing into the whole world of psychology. And I remember I did my undergraduate diploma in psychology while I was managing about 6 churches, 6 congregations,
Yes,
and other work in the area. And I mean, I used to travel about 100 kilometers per day just so that I could go to class and keep up. So making that transition from ministry to psychology was a big step for me.
yes,
Because it's of course it's very different. We're dealing with congregations, you're dealing with people's souls, you're dealing with a number of other social areas. But here it is that I just found that deep interest in the whole matter of the mind and how the mind works.
yeah.
So that was it for me. That was that point at which I said, this is something that I really want to do full time. And so I actually made that transition around that time. Right.
Wow, such an interesting story, right? So moving from being a spiritual leader to now using that information and bridging it with psychology and moving into sort of mental health field. Have you
Right.
found like similarities in sort of what you were doing before now?
There are a lot of similarities. When I was a full-time minister of religion, there were about 90% of the people that I saw were not necessarily churchgoers or religious people. These are people who would just walk in, coming off the street. They just want to talk to somebody. They want to share some ideas. But the similarity also came with, how many persons I saw for an hour. We kind of delve into the issues, find out what's going on. But a lot of times it will be just 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah.
But here it is now that there are a lot more sessions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though there are a lot of similarities in terms of some of the techniques I learned, some of the, posture, how we build rapport, all those things are similar.
Yes.
But in pastoral counseling or counseling in general, it felt limiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so entering into the whole world of psychology, it was expanded quite well, or largely, because it was now no longer about just spiritual direction or counseling. This was dealing with everything, including mental illnesses. So it was having the church background and the Christian background helped me to know how to connect with people, how to identify with them and work with them.
Yes, definitely. I could see how, how coming from that background helped you to then transition into the field that you're in now. And I think what I heard there is recognizing how limiting it was, to be able to reach out to individuals that maybe had mental health challenges or mental illness. And, now it seems you have the knowledge to be able to do that and recognize the capacity, that you have now to be able to do that for sure. Mm-hmm.
And so it has been interesting. It has been interesting because, before you would carry a person through 1 or 2 sessions and then you say, well, this is technically above what I'm able to do. So I'm going to hand you off to somebody else.
Yes.
And it always felt heavy to say to somebody, I can't go anymore. I'd love to help you, but I'm not trained in that area. So making that transition to psychology and being able to carry or help somebody move from stage 1 all the way up to where they're able to go off on their own was a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So I heard you sort of mention sort of the idea of your transition from spirituality and being a spiritual leader as a pastor, and now being, registered clinical counselor or psychologist. And I wanted to know what are some like pivotal steps that you can, I guess, identify for me, like areas in that transition that, really gave you the idea that, what, this is something that I really want to do.
All right. In 2015, around 2014, 2015, my grandmother was diagnosed with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a rapid transition, or it was a rapid progression, rather. And it was a very difficult thing to see my grandmother move from being the one caring for me to needing persons to care for her. Mm-hmm. So around late 2015, it became apparent that this was really taking a toll on her on a cognitive level. Mm-hmm. And I said, I would love to do something to help other persons in the future who may have dementia, who may have some other kind of neurodegenerative illnesses. And so I said, I think the best route would have been psychology.
Yes.
And so I went I applied, got in, and that has been my goal ever since then, to work towards helping persons with neurodegenerative, even neurodevelopmental challenges. So neuropsychology, which is what I'm hinting at as the area that I wanted. So it started with the degree in 2011, 2012, just out of curiosity and interest in the area of psychology. Mm-hmm. But then moving forward, it slowly became me wanting to do more to help my grandmother, to help other persons with dementia, as I said before, and to kind of grow in the field.
Yes.
And so making those final steps to doing the diploma meant that, doing the master's rather, meant that I had to step away from full-time ministry and just delve right into the master's program, because couldn't work and do that. So I sold my car. I had used all my savings just to support myself, help support my family, and just go through the program. So since then, it has been an amazing journey. In 2017, when I was just about entering second year, I was contacted by a neuropsychologist who said that, I could do some hours with her, and happy to say I'm still with her up to this point.
Yes. No, I'm listening to your story. I'm, just sort of remembering my own story of how I got to where I am today. And, I'm hearing bits and pieces of sort of similarities when you talked about your grandmother. And I find a lot of times when I listen to these stories, I'm hearing similarities in the sense that it's out of our own experiences that we find our true path sometimes, right? And I think I'm hearing that yes, you're interested in it because you're curious, but then curiosity led to you looking inside and also looking at your family and what's going on around you, and those, experiences, with sorrow and pain, comes even more motivation to want to help. And I think that's what I'm hearing there. You recognize the need, or a niche, right, within that space and of neuropsychology. And that area is, it takes a really, strong, empathetic person, right, to deal with neuropsychology, right? It has so much loss and pain and, grieving, right? That grief that happens within that space. So, I would say that it's amazing that you were able to see that need and delve into it. And now you're a person that specializes, it sounds like, in this area.
Right. So I'm en route to the doctorate in psychology, in clinical psychology, and I'm hoping to continue in that path of neuropsychology in memory of my grandmother.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for sharing, that story with us. And, recognizing that a lot of times success comes out of us sharing pieces of ourselves, and being willing to be vulnerable with those pieces. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you as well here. Mhm. Yes. All right. If there were tips that you could share with, individuals that want to delve deeper, right? They could be counseling students, they could be other people who are just sort of interested maybe in psychology. What are some tips that you could give them that could help them, to make that step or make that transition?
All right. I think, and this tip isn't something that's ordinarily spoken about,
Mhm.
but I think it's very important. And it is to treat people and not diagnoses or conditions. And
Mhm.
I think that a lot of times we can get caught up in treating a diagnosis, in treating schizophrenia or somebody who had a stroke, but there's a person behind a diagnosis.
Mhm.
And really getting to know who that person is allows you to understand them on a level that you wouldn't understand them if you didn't have that level of connection with them.
Yeah.
And I think that has been one of my strong points in terms of my whole walk in psychology, which is to really get to know people behind the diagnosis. Because other times when they come to me, they're like, well, I have this, I have that. And I'm like, I don't want to know what you have. I want to know who you are.
Mhm.
And it makes such a difference because when you start treating people, then everything else for me flows.
Yes.
And so that for me is the first step, the first point. The second point is to always keep yourself informed of new techniques, new ideas that are out there, and ensure that you're looking at the research that's out there and what people have been using, what people have been doing, and the change that come, because there are a number of opportunities for you to learn and grow in those areas.
Mhm.
Third would be to put yourself out there. I do a weekly post on Instagram, and that has opened so many doors for me. So now I'm working with an international company or two international companies rather. So, I mean, don't be afraid to put your content out there, put yourself out there, get yourself engaged, work with other psychologists in the field and really
Mhm.
garner the experience because it will pay off
Yes,
in very
yes,
short term.
definitely. Oh, I love those tips, for sure. I know that there are students out there listening, whether you're counseling students or you're students in general. I think those tips could, it could be adaptive to anybody who wants to make those transitional steps for sure. So thank you so much, Marlon. Anything else you want to share with us before we wrap up?
Well, I wanted to, continue to encourage persons to go into the field that they feel passionate about.
Mhm.
Because if you don't follow your passion, it's going to make life very difficult. And I say that because I did that for a number of years. I always felt like there was more that I could do in terms of helping people, in terms of encouraging, in understanding. And I thought of doing psychology years ago. But then I said, well, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough to get into a psychology program.
Yeah.
And here I am years later.
Yes.
So my thing is to always follow your passion, to give it your all, and to just be the best version of yourself.
Yes. Well, thank you for that encouragement for sure. Well, you heard Marlon, everybody. Like, put yourself out there and don't be afraid, and you never know where you can go or where you can get to if you, follow your passion. Now, Marlon, we always ask this question at the end, how can people reach you, if they want to connect with you, if they want services there in Jamaica, how can they connect with you?
All right. So I am I can be found on Instagram at Love Your Mind 2. I am also available via email, so loveyourmindassociates@gmail.com, and also by telephone as well. So that is 876-260-4077. 876-260-4077.
Wonderful. Yes, no, thank you so much for sharing that. We will be putting Marlon's contact information in the description box below. Please go there and connect with Marlon. If you yourself might be having difficulty with dementia or some neurological, psychological issue, or if you know someone that might be going through that as well, connect with Marlon at his contact details. All right, well, thank you so much, Marlon, for being with us. We really enjoyed talking with you.
All right, thank you too. Really, really, really appreciated this.
Yes. All right, well, there you have it, folks. Until next time, take care.